Section 5 of Thoughts on Art and Life. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Tom Davis Beale. Thoughts on Art and Life by Leonardo da Vinci. Translated by Maurice Baring and edited by Louis Einstein. Thoughts on Life, Part 5. Man in the Animal World. The description of man, including that of such creatures belonging almost to the same species, such as apes, monkeys, and the like, of which there are many. The way of walking in man is similar in all cases to the universal way of walking in four-footed animals, because, just as they move their feet crosswise, like a trotting horse, so man moves his four limbs crosswise. That is to say, in walking he puts forward his right foot simultaneously with his left arm, and so on vice versa. Write a special treatise to describe the movements of four-footed animals, among which is man, who in his childhood also walks on 4 feet. Fragment of a letter. There is one who, having promised me much less than his due, and being disappointed of his presumptuous desire, has tried to deprive me of all of my friends, and finding them wise and not pliable to his will, he has threatened me that he would bring accusations against me and alienate my benefactors from me. Hence I have informed your lordship of this, so that this man who wishes to sow the usual scandals may not find a soil fit for sowing the thoughts and deeds of his evil nature, and that when he tries to make your lordship the tool of his infamous and malicious nature, he may be disappointed of his desire. Giacomo, of pupil of Leonardo. On the 23rd of April, 1490, I began this book, and started again on the horse. Giacomo came to live with me on St. Mary Magdalene's Day in 1490. He was 10 years old. He was a thief, a liar, obstinate, and a glutton. On the second day I had 2 shirts made for him, a pair of socks, and a jerkin, and when I placed the money aside to pay for these things, he stole it out of the purse, and I could never force him to confess the fact, though I was quite certain of it. 4 lire. On the following day I went to sup with Giacomo Andrea, and this same Giacomo supped for 2 and did mischief for 4, since he broke 3 bottles, spilled the wine, and after this came to sup where I. Item, on the 7th of September he stole a silver point, worth 12 soldi, from Marco, who was living with me, and took it from his studio, and when Marco had looked for it for some time, he found it hidden in Giacomo's box. Lira 1, soldi 2. Item. On the 26th of the following January, being in the house of Messer Galeazzo di San Severino, in order to arrange the festivity of his joust, and certain henchmen having undressed to try on the costumes of rustics who were to take part in aforesaid festivity, Giacomo took the purse of one of them, which was on the bed with other clothes, and stole the money he found in it, 2 lire 4 soldi. Item. Maestro Agostino of Padua gave me, while I was in the same house, a Turkish hide to have a pair of shoes made of it, and Giacomo stole this from me within a month and sold it to a cobbler for 20 soldi, with which money, by his own confession, he bought sweets of aniseed. Item. Again, on the 2nd of April, Giovanni Antonio left a silver point on one of his drawings, and Giacomo stole it. It was worth 24 soldi. 1 lira 4 soldi. The first year a cloak, 2 lira. 6 shirts, 4 lira. 3 doublets, 6 lira. 4 pairs of socks, 7 lira 8 soldi. And in this case I know that I shall make not a few enemies, since no one will believe what I say of him, because there are but few whom his vices have disgusted. Indeed, they only disgusted those men whose natures are contrary to such vices. And many hate their fathers and break off friendship with those who reprove their vices, and they will have no examples brought up against them, nor tolerate any advice. And if you meet with any one who is good and virtuous, drive him not away from you, do him honor, so that he may not have to flee from you and hide in hermitages, or caverns and other solitary spots, in order to escape from your treachery. And if there be such a one, do him honor, because these are your gods upon earth. They deserve statues from you and images. But remember that you are not to eat their images, as it is practiced still in some parts of India, where, when images have performed some miracle, the priests cut them in pieces, since they are made of wood, and distribute them among the people of the country, not without payment, and each one grates his portion very fine and puts it upon the first food he eats, and thus they believe that they have eaten their saint by faith, who will preserve them from all perils. What is thy opinion, O man, of thy own species? Art thou so wise as thou believest to be? Are these things to be done by men? Pleasure and pain. This represents pleasure together with pain, because one is never separated from the other. They are depicted back to back because they are opposed to each other. They are represented in one body because they have the same basis, because the source of pleasure is labor mingled with pain, and the pain issues from the various evil pleasures. And it is therefore represented with a reed in its right hand, which is ineffectual and devoid of strength, and the wounds inflicted by it are poisonous. In Tuscany such reeds are placed to support beds, to signify that this is the place of idle dreams, that here a great part of life is consumed. Here much useful time is wasted, that is, the morning hours when the mind is sober and rested and the body disposed to start on fresh labors. There, again, many vain pleasures are enjoyed by the mind, which pictures to itself impossible things, and by the body, which indulges in those pleasures that are so often the case of the failing of life, and for this reason the reed is used as their support. Brain and soul. The spirit returns to the brain whence it had departed, with a loud voice, and uttering these words: O blissful and fortunate spirit, whence comest thou? I have known this man well against my will. He is a receptacle of villainy. He is a very heap of the highest ingratitude combined with all the other vices. But why should I tire myself with vain words? Nothing is to be found in him save the accumulation of all sins, and if there is to be found among them any that possess good, they will not be treated differently than I have been by other men. In short, I have come to the conclusion that they are bad if they are enemies, and worse if they are friends. Of the eye. The eye, which reflects the beauty of the universe to those who see, is so excellent a thing that he who consents to its loss deprives himself of the spectacle of the works of nature. And it is owing to this spectacle, effected by means of the eye, which enables the soul to behold the various objects of nature, that the soul is content to remain in the prison of the body. But he who loses his eyesight leaves the soul in a dark prison, where all hope of once more beholding the sun, the light of the whole world, is lost. And how many are they who feel great hatred for the darkness of night, although it is brief? Oh, what would they do were they constrained to abide in this darkness during the whole of their life? Certainly there is no one who would not rather lose his hearing or sense of smell than his eyesight, and the loss of hearing includes the loss of all sciences which find expression in words. And this loss a man would incur solely so as not to be deprived of the sight of the beauty of the world, which consists in the surfaces of bodies artificial as well as natural, which are reflected in the human eye. The eye in animal life. Animals suffer greater loss in losing their sight than their hearing for many reasons. Firstly, because it is by means of their sight that they find the food which is their nourishment, and is necessary for all animals. Secondly, because by means of sight the beauty of created things is apprehended, especially those which lead to love, while he who is born blind cannot apprehend such beauty by hearing, because he has never received any knowledge as to what is beauty of any kind. There remains hearing, by which I mean only the human voice and speech. They contain the names of all things whatsoever. It is possible to live happily without the knowledge of these words. It is as seen in those who are born deaf, that is to say, the dumb, who take delight in drawing. Ascension of Monte Rosa. I say that the azure we see in the atmosphere is not its true color, but is caused by warm moisture evaporated in minute and insensible atoms which the solar rays strike, rendering them luminous against the darkness of the infinite night of the fiery region which lies beyond and includes them. And this may be seen, as I saw it, by him who ascends Mount Bosso, Monte Rosa, a peak of the Alps which separates France from Italy. The base of this mountain gives birth to the 4 large rivers, which in 4 different directions water the whole of Europe, and no mountain has its base at so great a height as this. It rises to such a height that it almost lifts itself up above the clouds. Snow seldom falls on it, but only hail in summer, when the clouds are at their greatest height, and this hail is preserved there, so that were it not for the absorption of the rising and falling clouds, which does not occur twice in an age, a great quantity of ice would be piled up there by the hail, which in the middle of July I found to be very considerable. And I saw above me the dark air, and the sun which struck the mountain shone far lighter than in the plains below, because a lesser quantity of atmosphere lay between the summit of the mountain and the sun. Prophecies. Men will communicate with each other from the most distant countries, and reply. Many will abandon their own habitations and take with them their own goods, and go and inhabit other countries. Men will pursue the thing which they most greatly fear, that is to say, they will be miserable in order to avoid falling into misery. Men, standing in separate hemispheres, will converse with each other, embrace each other, and understand each other's language. We should not desire the impossible. End of section 5.